Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast for people who are ready to custom build their love.
We're talking about non-monogamy, however you design it, as an individuation opportunity.
Want to leave the default and make your life spectacularly you? You're in the right place. Ken, I have a question that I get asked at least once a week. Actually, it comes in droves. When I'm doing a whole bunch of calls, connect calls with people who are thinking about doing the year of opening or thinking about private work, it's this question. So we've already opened up. Maybe they're dating, maybe they're not, but they've officially opened the doors. How can we maintain this delicious, yummy renaissance of relating that we have tapped into? They've opened the door, and somehow, unbeknownst, they opened the door often because there was major desire discrepancy. And so they talked, they figured it out, and they decided to make a shift from their monogamous standard up till now into something else. Lots of options what they might be considering, and everybody doing it differently. But the common thread is, turns out we actually really want each other. Often they've reawakened their sexual attraction to each other, reawakened an emotional awareness. There's a depth. People describe wow, we feel spiritually connected. We're so in love. This is amazing. How do we maintain this renaissance?
That's a great question.
It is a great question.
And
it's also a little tricky.
It certainly is tricky. So the idea of the Renaissance, this resurgence of, part of the problem, part of the trickiness of this is, what exactly do you specifically mean by the positive changes you've had in your relationship? What is it that you're appreciating? I think that we're speaking about it generally with there's more erotic energy, there's more fun and play between you. I don't know. What is it you value about your relationship?
Well, there's the thing. It's actually what I usually hear is that it's like a whole new dimension has opened up. All of a sudden they're seeing it, life went from 2D to 3D.
Yep.
Everything. And the reason I said it's tricky is because, first off, I need to know, first, what do you want to maintain? What is the new thing that you have that you want to maintain? But also, I think of this as, we talk about new relationship energy.
Right.
All that comes along with new relationship energy, and how when you're in this NRE energy, that experience of being an NRE is somewhat overwhelming. It can feel like you're high. It can feel so amazing. It's also generally understood to be temporary or temporally bound. Usually people talk about somewhere between 3 and 18 months for NRE. I think of this renaissance as actually NRE with the concept of non-monogamy itself.
That's good.
There's this new energy that has entered your life, and you literally do have a new form of relationship with a person you might have been partnered with. We've got people up to 45 years of partnership in year of opening who you've got all this history. And then when something new clicks into place, right? There is an amazing, a boundless amount of energy released then. So I think there's a lot to dig into here about, specifically, what is it? What reawakened that you want to keep, you want to foster, you want to maintain? But I think it's also really important to consider that maybe maintaining that level isn't the point. Maybe maintenance of that high, right? It depends on exactly what you're describing. But if you're describing something that is about the newness itself.
Yeah, right.
So you and I, actually, maybe we're a great example for this.
I think we are. And go ahead.
Well, when we first got together, we had an immense amount of NRE for each other and for the relationship we were creating, that was drawn out for a very protracted amount of time, many, many years, actually. In part, we decided it was about 4 years, in part because other people kept creating these roadblocks. And so it really stretched out the time that
Yeah.
we could feel that. But also, there was an intensity maintained by the fact that we stayed in constant discovery. We kept experimenting with different formats, and like we were really doubling down. But here we are in our 16th year. We have an amazing depth. I definitely think that we have maintained the energy of really intense relating, but we don't have what we had then,
Right.
because we also don't have the instability that was then. That feeling of, I am quite literally walking over coals to get some of the things that I am doing.
Yep.
I don't feel unsafe in a sort of roller coaster way. I don't feel the roller coaster with you. I feel profound stability even when we are doing ridiculously complex things in our relationships.
So that's interesting. So if you equate newness with instability, then if that's the aspect that is energizing and that you want to maintain,
Well, and I don't think that's
that's
what people are equating it to. I
mhm.
think that it's just that there is a level of, I don't know what's going to happen next. There's
Okay,
just a
good.
level of freshness, a level
Mhm.
of a kind of, wow, we are having conversations. Not, it's not just that. I mean, I have people who say that they've been doing the hard work of relationship for years, for decades, and they have been really digging in. And still, when they consider opening, all of a sudden it is like a whole new dimension opens up. And
Yeah,
now, wow, okay, there are whole new ways to know each other. There are whole new levels to this.
right. So what do you think about that dimension? So you've mentioned the newness as um, contributing.
Yeah, the newness, the idea, introducing new amounts of autonomy specifically
Mhm, mhm.
as like a primary aspect of like, wow, it's a reintroduction to yourself.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's not,
Well,
often we focus on all the access to other people we might have.
yeah.
But what I really see landing for people is if you have been in long-term monogamous enmeshment, especially, but even if you've been in long-term hyper individualistic, like but you have a clear container and you know exactly what's going to happen and you know what's expected, you know what your partner knows about you. And
Yes.
like you're used to them seeing you in a certain way, you're
Yeah.
used to being perceived that way, you're used to, there's just a sort of a set of assumptions we
Yep.
make and are made about us. I know you. The the shift into non-monogamy brings with it the this intense wave of wow, where autonomy is now it's held in higher esteem
Yeah.
than it was for most people. I'm sure there are plenty of people who have a lot of autonomy in their monogamy, but it's not a primary value of monogamy. Like
And
that's not like the thing we're taught to want.
and something you can't do when you only have one relationship is see what your partner looks like when they're having a relationship with someone.
Yeah.
You can't see it because you are the person they're having a relationship with.
Yeah, you're
So there's a
inside it.
whole dimension of them that you can't know
Yeah.
because you define that part. As soon as they have a relationship with somebody else, you get access to that. And I think of this, I could say this a bunch of different ways, but it's it's um it's it's distance from your partner. It's this differentiation. It's a separation. I am me and you are you. And over time, it can be tricky to hold that space between you when you two are your only intimate relationships.
Right.
They just,
And even your friendships, because often our friendships are held in they're like anotherness, and we
yep,
often don't look directly at our partner's friendships.
And you don't
We just like don't even think about it. We don't compare them to us.
Yep.
But now we enter into this realm of partnership, and all of a sudden, whew, what is going on there? I am
Yeah.
watching my partner. I mean, for that matter, the first time, if you choose to engage in the practice of having sex where your partner can see you, the first time you watch your partner have sex with someone,
Yeah.
and you get to see from the outside. I have a very distinct memory of the first time you saw me having sex with someone else. And remembering that continues to be a huge turn on for me, but also the feeling. One of the ways I think we did maintain the intensity of our connection was that was, I mean, it also brought up jealousy. I remember like leaving that party and you were a bit twiggy.
I was.
You had some feelings, you had some stuff, but you were also really excited, and you were holding the tension of those things. We focused on the jealousy, but over the long term, what I've noticed is you also really did pay attention to, wow, I can see you. I'm seeing you from this new perspective. And as long on in all the moments you were able to keep your threat response in check, you were able
Right.
to just hold like,
Yep.
okay, I'm feeling that, but also look, this person, my beloved, I can see her from here, and I can see the angle. It's
Yep. Yep.
that alone. This could also be taken to a metaphorical level, right? It's not just about seeing someone have sex. It's also about seeing them have an argument,
Yeah.
or witnessing them buying a treat for their other partner. These are the seeds of compersion, right? It's
Yeah.
all of these things that we can see, and if we can hold ourselves out of comparison, as in there's a finite amount of
Yeah.
my
Yep.
beloved's energy, and so
If you
if
perceive it
whatever
as
she's
being
giving away,
replaced
then
versus just
that
another experience.
will undermine.
Yeah.
But if you can instead see it and be like, wow, that's how much thought goes into what she's doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's behind. That's how clearly
Yep.
she's holding this. That's how important it is to her.
Yeah.
And if you can remember that same energy is also present, like that's your person.
Yeah.
You care so much about them.
This is a person who will turn that energy toward you as well.
Yeah.
When this topic first came up, my immediate answer to the question of how do we maintain this was curiosity, but I realized that didn't go far enough.
Yeah, I
It's like
think
because curiosity is very effective at breaking through when a relationship gets kind of strangled feeling. You just start asking questions you think you know the answer to. But in this particular circumstance, when you open up and your partner has some other relationship and you can see that, we talked about newness, we talked about instability. In those cases, you don't know what's going to happen next because you're not in control of it. And so when I see you engaging with someone else in whatever way, I don't know what you're going to do. And it's
so
exciting.
exciting. Yeah.
It's so exciting. And
If you remember that it's exciting.
if you remember that, I mean, it can
You have
be
to breathe.
scary if you feel like it's something. If I feel like if I don't know what you are going to do, then I'm scared, then that's a very different experience. But if I think, I don't know what you're going to do, which means you're going to show me a side of you that I don't know about, which links back to the curiosity. Ooh, show me more of that. What's going on? How is this for you? And it opens up a whole line of questioning that was impossible before.
It also opens us up to the fact that we may mistake our partner's like monogamous gaze, their exclusive gaze,
Mhm.
as our security. We may think that
Ah,
that is the
yes.
source of the security. And as we open up, fear comes in because
Mhm.
it takes years, in my experience, years to actually shift your you're like embodied, your somatic response to exclusivity equals safety. To shift from that into multiplicity and curiosity and building secure foundations out of clarity and knowing each other and being willing to make the hard asks and receive the answers. Those things are a new way of feeling secure. And it
Yeah.
takes, in my experience, 3 to 5 years of continual effort, like pretty much continual effort to shift that paradigm. And so I don't want you to maintain the monogamous norm of exclusivity equals security. I want you to actually shift into, and so you're going to enter into this period of time where what you were just saying, like, it's exciting. It's also terrifying to witness and to say, I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But what can you do to support yourself during that time? Well, okay, that's a great question. Let's actually table that for a second, because there's something else I want to bring in.
All right.
When people say, well, we want to know how to maintain this beautiful, juicy intimacy that we've got again. So often what they're describing is they'd been together for a period of time, usually at least a few years, maybe many decades. Stuff started to either just get kind of dead or laggy. There was space. There was just a dullness between them. There was something that just was like, there's like a lack of intensity, a lack of freshness. Often there's sex has just kind of either dropped off or really decreased, either in frequency or in pleasure. Like, yeah, we have it, but we don't seem to really care about it. Often there's a level of emotional, we just assume we already know what each other's answers are. So we're not really totally present to the newness of the person in front of us. Often there's been just sort of a lack of interesting things to do together. Sometimes because you're focused on other stuff, you're raising a family or you're starting businesses, you're just doing other things, and that's getting all of your fresh energy and attention. And then through this desire discrepancy, this desire mismatch, one or both of you decide, okay, let's consider this opening. We consider it. And in the space of time when between like, well, let's consider it and let's start taking action, which for some people is years of being in this talking phase. We're talking about this. And for some people, it's a few days. In that span of time, if that in itself rekindles, if there's like a spark and all of a sudden, wow, okay, this person is new and now we're having these deep conversations, we're connecting, the sex is great again, we're even having sex again, all these things, I understand the desire to want to maintain that. And you may be missing the core, which is what you discovered is you do want this person. It was there the whole time. But it needs oxygen. It needs to have life breathed into it. But as you settle into the practice of your non-monogamy, my question is, what are you going to do to actually continue to invest in this relationship without trying to continue to maintain the monogamy? Because what I see is frequently, and this just happened last week, somebody came in and they had opened. They were struggling because they opened up. It really reinvigorated their marriage. They were super excited. And now one of them is like, so that should be enough. Like, look what we have. We shouldn't need anything else. So they felt like, well, all we needed was to have basically the fear. I just needed to be scared back into it. I just needed to get like a cold bucket of water splashed on me. And now I'm back. Their partner was like, no, I'm pretty sure this is the thing. I feel reinvigorated. I feel alive. I'm excited. There is often so much like monogamous back pressure, this like intention, like, well, we found this again. Let's not fuck it up. Let's maintain this. That now we're like now we're actually fueling the monogamous exclusivity, which might work. I have seen a couple of occasions where somebody like, yep, we introduce this idea, it reinvigorates, and we find out, yeah, really all we want to do is go to like a swingers hotel takeover once a year. That'll just keep us kind of like freshened up. It'll keep our heads in the game, so to speak. And that's enough openness for us.
Mhm.
But they're maintaining monogamy. A huge amount of the people who come to work with me really do want a dramatically more open experience than that. They want polyamory. They want to rebuild their relational lives to include multiplicity. They're not sure what depth of connection they want, but they want to experience dating again. They want to experience building relationships. And so the tension point of no, but we have to keep the focus here, and we have to keep the focus on this dyad, this connection. I find it can wind up being like, okay, yep, you relit the fire, the water's boiling, and then you slap the lid on it,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden we have a couple problems, and one of them is that an explosion might happen. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of energy generated. So I get curious about whether what's operating under the surface. Why, when you say we want to maintain this, do
Mhm.
you mean I want to maintain this while also figuring out how to have the multiplicity we set out for? Or actually, am I pretty scared about this and I don't want to go there. I don't want multiplicity. I actually want monogamy, but I
Yeah.
want it with
There's
this level of intensity from my partner.
Mhm.
And this may be the first time you really grapple with, oh, we are very different people.
Right. And
And
this can be it can come from, like you said, different places. What's going on under the surface? Are you suddenly feeling more energy in this intimate relationship because of the excitement that came in externally, but you want that relationship to be calmer than that? It's like those two things don't actually match, and you're going to have to figure out what is it you want out of your relationship? What is it you want to put into your relationship, and how does it all um where does the energy come from? I guess that's the question. Like, look at yourself. Look into yourself for where do you get your energy from for
right.
this relationship?
There's another piece of this puzzle that it's hard to look at, I think. And that is, so, I mean, if one person, when we're talking about a monogamous dyad where one person initiates the idea of opening up, hey, let's do this. And the other is like, whoa, okay, this idea has entered my awareness. Sometimes the person who initiated tries very, very hard to do whatever it takes to get their partner on board, their reluctant partner on board. So they really increase their intensity of attention, affection, interest. They really turn up the energy dial in a way that may not be sustainable for them, but they do it. And now their partner's getting all this attention poured on them, and also some pressure, maybe some pressure to, hey, so we're opening, and it can get really messy because what exactly is going on here? Is this actually the initiating partner? Are they actually fawning? Are they pretending to be who their
Yeah.
long-term partner
Right.
wants them to be right now? Are they over producing? Are they like they're really like putting a lot in, but they can't maintain that? Um, or are they both genuinely just experiencing, yeah, new non-monogamy energy? Like it's just NNE, we could call it. New
an
non
enemy.
NNME.
An enemy. An
Um,
enemy? That doesn't sound
and that
right.
doesn't sound right. But if it is that, yeah, it's gonna dissipate over time. But if it's the first thing, if there's a level, I do not think this is happening at a conscious level, but at an unconscious level, and I did this. So when I was like in my naivete was just like, wow, open relationships are a thing. I want to be open. Yeah, I poured so much attention all over my husband. I absolutely did. It was genuine. he made the mistake of agreeing way too fast. That happened. It was really hard, but that in that agreement time, right? And it was fast for us, really, really fast. We both agreed. We were both kind of playing around, but he only liked the part that was more energy being poured on him, both from me and from other people from the outside. Every time he had to look at me putting any energy towards someone else, total disintegration, like complete collapse, which was very early information that this whole process needed to go way slower
Mhm.
if we specifically wanted to keep that relationship in that format. And I didn't. I was very clear. I wanted a full on change. I wanted a full renegotiation. I was no longer interested or I was out. I had already been in that marriage too long for my psychological well-being. So we were at a real breaking point. And I think this is relevant for a lot of us because we don't necessarily know what's going on. We're in an unconscious, just sort of maintaining what is phase. And you can do that for a long time. And then new non monogamy energy comes in, and it may fool one or both of you into thinking, oh, this is all great.
Yeah.
My advice isn't focusing on how to maintain this renaissance that you're experiencing, but on how to maintain the energy that you're pouring into relationality.
Mhm.
Start thinking about how many hours a week need to go into you learning about yourself, identifying what your actual needs, wants, bottom lines, and boundaries are. Starting to think about new ways of communicating difficult information or having conversations that you used to just sweep under the couch. And investing that time, not just in looking at the beautiful sunrise that has just happened, but
Right.
also in, wow, we got some work to do. We've got there's a lot of energy to be outlaid here.
I like that. And myself, I've done that. I've put the like I've focused my energy on developing the skills to have the conversations and create agreements, et cetera, et cetera. And for a period of time, I was like, boy, this is a lot of work to get to relating.
It is the
Forgetting
relating.
that all of that was the
That is
relating.
it. That's it. That's it.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is all preparation for relating. No, it is the relating. And that
Right.
when I realized that, I'm like, oh wait, this is the energy. This is
Right.
the re-energization.
Yeah. Somebody in
It's one aspect of it anyway.
a new student in you just said, it's not that in year of opening, he said it, it's not just that there's a lot of stuff to do. It's, like question, it's not just that there are a lot of conversations to have with my partner. It's a whole new way of thinking. I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
let myself think beyond what I was modeled as a child.
Mhm.
Like we witnessed very simplistic versions of relating. And as we start into our non-monogamous exploration, there is a lot of experimentation, and I find people tend to put the focus on doing the things that look to the outside world like your non-monogamy. I want to go out and date. I want to go to sex clubs. I want to
Yeah.
go do the things.
Yeah.
Um, the foundational work of understanding yourself, of really starting to think about relationships and unpacking the habits that you've had that have undermined every relationship you've had, unpacking those, starting to address them. I don't think it's an either or. I don't think you should prepare forever and then go date. Like I said, if it's 3 to 5 years to change a paradigm, please don't wait 3 to 5 years thinking, oh, I'll finally get there and I'll be perfect and I'll go do
Yeah, that's
non-monogamy
not how
perfectly.
that's gonna
Not that.
work. Yeah.
It's like these are concurrent events. But I do think that there's a pacing thing. Sometimes we need to go slowly and allow ourselves the time to do the self-inquiry for much longer than we imagine. My experience was that I jumped into the dating and the activity so fast that I almost missed that I was witnessing an internal transformation, and that energy deserved to be spent not just on my current partner and my new love interest, but on me and on noticing what I was doing and noticing all
Yeah.
the things I was learning about who I had been and how I'd been showing up in relationship. And that was going to be an investment that I would never regret.
Yep. And these things, they require time. It's not just that they take time, they require time. Like, you can't detect patterns of behavior without a length of time in which to for behaviors to happen.
And you have to be observing them. So you
Mhm.
may have a whole bunch of history that you have a clear
Yeah.
story, you have a relationship narrative, but that's going to be colored by your monogamous perspective.
Yeah.
As you start to unpack that and you start to think differently about relationships, you have the opportunity to look at relationships real time and start noticing how you show up, how you actually show up, not how your best self says you show up,
Right.
not the image you think you're presenting, but how do you
Yep.
actually show up? Do you know how to, for instance, we talk a lot about agreements, but do you know what repair is? What does repair look like in a relationship? What things do you do? What are the actual actions of repair? Or a lot of people talk about the excitement they're feeling. Great, excitement's awesome. How do we build, rebuild, and maintain trust? What are the actions of that? Learning how to do that. I think it's great to learn to do that in the context of dating while also partnered to someone else. Like that, wonderful. And it's going to bring up some big stuff, some really, really big stuff. So I guess the bottom line for me is that we can maintain the newness, the delicious new level of intimacy, this new dimension that has opened up. That I believe we can maintain. But it's not always going to feel just like this because you won't always be freshly into non-monogamy. It's going to shift over time. It's actually okay. Um, New CrossFitters have a particular energy.
Oh,
I
yes,
am no
they
longer
do.
a CrossFitter, but I
Yes, they
was.
do.
I was. And I was a true believer. I went straight from I'm a CrossFitter to I own 2 CrossFit boxes. Like in like the scheme of a few years, things changed. There is no true believer like a CrossFit true believer. That's just at the beginning. Eventually, most of them, 99.9% of people who participate in CrossFit eventually go, yeah, it's great, but also it's just exercise.
Yeah.
It's just a way of moving your
Yeah.
body and it's fine. And I can participate that or not. There's a level of that like super enthusiasm that's actually about the thing that you just found that feels like it's the answer.
Yes, right.
CrossFit's not the answer. Non-monogamy is not the answer. It's it's you engaging with your life.
Right.
That's the closest thing I can imagine to
And
an answer.
what you said about going slowly, um, the alternative to going slowly is being done. Like, there is no fast or slow. You're either, like, still working on it or you're not. And that's all there is to it. There's no pace. Like, yes, there you can decide how much time and energy you want to spend on particular things, but um when I think of, like, who's doing this really fast, no one. You can only go at the pace you grow and learn.
Right? Where I think that becomes troublesome is when two people who have been in a long-term partnership
Mm,
are used to each other intentionally maintaining a unified pace.
yeah.
That will no longer be possible.
Yep.
And we can absolutely intentionally maintain a a practice of like how much work we put in, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how each of us is going to change, and we don't know what opportunities each of us are going to have. It
Yeah, that's a
does introduce an element
yeah.
of, yeah, this is why it's such a great opportunity to start recognizing my differentiation from the other and then really allow myself to be in my individuation. Individuation, remember, bringing unconscious material into conscious awareness so that you have more and more access to who you actually are. That is a lifelong process. We differentiate so that we can continue on the path of individuation. And we have to do it over and over and over again.
And my that differentiation contributes strongly, in my opinion, to that Renaissance energy. All of a sudden, oh, I'm me and you're you.
Right.
It's uh, well,
And that's how I
my
think you and I have maintained that sense of the intimacy continues to deepen, and part of it has to do with non-monogamy, but we're not it's not about the
it
non-monogamy.
isn't
It's
because
about maintaining our differentiation practices.
things had been getting kind of flat for us for
Yeah,
like a year, if not more now. And all that I changed was I stopped trying not to be myself, and boom, it's starting to change. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Just being myself.
Dear God, please stop people pleasing.
Yeah,
I
right?
don't like it, I'm not pleased.
I'm not no one's pleased. I don't know which people is pleased. Yeah, so that
I want
that's
you to bother me.
and that
I
has
want you to
taken
bother me.
so much to really take in, but keeping keeping the like you said, keeping the intimacy, keeping the level and intensity of the intimacy, that's something that you can work on.
Absolutely.
And there are I mean, how exactly you will work on it in any particular relationship is unique
But
to
there are
you.
tools for it.
But there are tools to
There
help
are
you.
methods.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're doing in the year of
That's
opening.
what the year
That's
of opening is all
exactly
about.
what it's
Mhm.
for. It's not really about whether you open or not. It's about whether you open yourself up or not. Um, okay, this is a great question, and I hope the answer is piquing curiosity, because I don't think it's exactly the answer people are necessarily hoping for, but I do think that there is hope for maintaining the core of this, which is how can I still experience the level of joy that I'm experiencing right
Yeah.
now? So thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
We talk to you all the time. It is absolutely imperative to me that we get to hear from you as well.
Yes, please.
So we'd love to invite you to join us. Join Ken and I. We're holding monthly Ask Me Anythings. You can show up, bring your questions from podcast episodes, from your relationships, bring questions about non monogamy, about individuation, about relationship skills. We would love to share space with you. We're hosting these AMAs free of charge for our podcast listeners. You are the Playing with Fire community, and it matters a ton to us that we connect with you directly. So
Oh,
go,
I would so love to hear your questions and oh, it'd be so awesome.
yeah. Go to joliehamilton.com/AMA and you'll find a way to sign up real quick and get an invitation to join us in a small group where we're going to get together and talk about all things non monogamy, individuation, and relationships.